As you know, the purpose of this interview is to narrate the impact Black women have had on American society. We'll start by having you tell us a little something about yourself, your family background, education, career, religious and organization involvement, and from there on, you can tell me whatever you think is relevant to my gaining and understanding of who you are. I may step in every now and then to ask you a question, but for the most part, I want you to tell me your own story on your own terms. First, I would like to start by asking you, could you please tell me some basic background information about yourself? Your name, date and place of birth, your parents and siblings, your ancestors, your religious background, and community involvement.
My name is Terry Elizabeth Barnes. I was born January 23rd, 1971. I was born in Hollywood, Florida. My parents are James and Bertha Lane Sr. I have eight, well, there's eight of us. There's five boys and two girls from four different mothers.
Three girls.
Oh, sorry, three girls, two sisters. My apologies. Um, I grew up in Miami, Florida, what is actually called now Miami Gardens, Florida. Um, I grew up Baptist, and I'm now a Methodist. And as far as my ancestors, my dad's mom grew up in Tifton, Georgia, also known as, there's another little town called Enigma, Georgia, but I say Tifton because people pretty much know or have heard of Tifton. Um, Her dad was a full blooded Indian. I honestly don't know what tribe he was from, but my dad always talks about him that he was a very kind person. He didn't have very many words, but he can remember his mom and his aunts would sit out on the porch and just brush his long white hair. Um, he always talks about his granddad. Um, my mom's side is from the Bahamas. My mom's dad was from Cat Island. My mom's mom was from Long Island, Bahamas. Um, I am related to Sidney Poitier. He doesn't know it, but I know it. It's hard for me to look at Sidney Poitier on TV because he and my grandfather resemble very much. They resemble each other. So when I see him, I see my granddad. So sometimes it's hard for me to watch him, especially now in his older years. Um, in my upbringing, I was brought up more of the Bahamian tradition versus the American tradition just because I was more with my mom. My dad was a truck driver, he was always on the road. So my grandmother lived with us. My mom's mom lived with us. Um, my grandmother went blind when my mom was 2 years old. So when my mom was able to get up out on her own, my grandmother just moved in with her as her health declined. Up until her health declined, my grandmother ran her own household. She literally cooked, she washed, she did everything on her own. So, uh,
So,
it's
what did you value most growing up?
my self worth as a woman. Um, I was always brought up that you are a woman and a child of God, and you don't have to deal with anything in life that you're not satisfied with. If you feel like it's not of God or it's not something that you feel like you can't live with or deal with, you don't have to deal with it. You just don't have to. And there's always a way to escape the situation.
Okay. What did you learn about being a woman growing up?
Okay. I learned from what I saw. I saw strong women in my family. As I said, my mom's mom was blind. So you have to think about my grandmother had not seen her child since she was 2 years old. But even in that, she still was able to run her house. She still was able to raise her daughter. They only had My grandmother did lose two children prior to my mom, but she was able to survive. And to watch my grandmother, totally blind, take care of a house. The house was spotless. There was no carpet in the house, all wood floors except for the living room, which it stayed clean because we couldn't go in there. Um, that says a lot for a strong black woman. And then my dad's mom, uh, she did what she could to maintain the household. Um, I know that she was the candy lady of the neighborhood, if you all know what that is. Everybody went to her house to get all the candy. She had a whole table full of candy, hot sausages, pickled pig feet, all of anything that you would want, your frozen cups and your sodas, potato chips, anything you want, everybody came to her house. But in order to live and help with her household income, she ran numbers, which was an illegal act, to be honest. I'm putting it out there. Um, it was just a way it's a different form, an illegal form of gambling. Um, but she did what she had to do to help maintain her household. So I saw two different women from two very different aspects of life, but both of them maintained their household and made sure that everyone within their household was taken care
So, what did you learn about being a black woman growing up?
of. hmm. To be honest, I could tell you from kindergarten to fifth grade, I didn't have to deal with being per se black. I went to a predominantly white school, and at that time, I never experienced racism. Never did. We we didn't see color. I'm not saying that no one within that school was raised in that way or was taught that, but I never experienced that. I didn't know I was black until I went to an all black school when I went to the sixth grade. And it was a culture shock to me. Um, I didn't know the black songs. I didn't know um, pretty much about the black culture. I honestly didn't. And for my sixth grade class song, it was I Believe the Children Are Our Future. And they looked at me, "You don't know that song?" I'm like, "No." So I had to learn it, which everyone else already knew it. So I didn't know that I was black until I hit the sixth grade. And at that time, I wasn't black enough. So I had to learn a totally different culture in life. And when I went to high school, um, everything was, by that time, I had settled in, everything was okay. I honestly never experienced racism in Miami until I moved to Atlanta, Georgia for college. And I went to a store, and back then at customer service, They didn't have a line. Everybody just stood around around the counter, and it was really on the honor system. Whoever was next, they would say who was next. And this lady who was white seen about everybody at that customer service line and left me for last. I had never experienced that in all my life. I went home at that time. Um, Me and your dad was living together, and I was bawling out of control. He didn't know what had happened to me, and when I told him, he was shocked because I had never experienced it. So he grew up in Alabama. I grew up in Miami, but I had never experienced racism until I was grown. So I didn't know how to handle it. And being that I grew up, you have to respect your elders and you have to treat them in a certain way. I didn't say anything to the woman. I never said anything. I just waited there patiently, but it festered up inside me. By the time I got home, I was just crying my eyes out.
Do you wish you would have said something to her?
I do. I do now. And I would not have cursed her out or anything like that, but I would have politely let her know that what she was doing, and I know she was doing it on purpose, was not right. I would have let her know that, but I didn't. But I learned from that instance that, oh, that'll never happen again. I will never feel that way again in my life. So there's a way to put people in check without having to cuss them out. And you could put them in check in a way that they even have to second guess it.
Okay. Now we're going to move on to the next subject. Who were the people in your life who encouraged you to be where you are today and why?
Okay. Me, myself, I was a young teenage mother. I had my first child at 17, and my maternal grandmother always told me, you can do whatever you want to do. And when I got pregnant, she told me, you're not the first and you won't be the last. Just make sure that you do what it takes to take care of your child and be who you want to be in life. One child don't stop no show. That's what she always told me. One child don't stop no show. So that's why I went on to college. And my mom told me, don't let anyone stop you from doing what you want to do, going where you want to go, be who you want to be, experience life, live. You only get one life. She lived a sheltered life. She wanted to go off to school, and her dad wouldn't let her. Back then in those days, even when you were grown, you still had to listen to your parents and obey what they said. And she told me she would never stop me from going where I wanted to go. And so when I wanted to go off to school to better myself, they kept my child. My mom and dad kept my child so that I could go off to school to better myself. Well, my dad's mom always told me the sky is the limit. The sky, excuse me. My paternal grandmother always told me the sky is the limit. You can do whatever you want to do. Don't let no man stop you from doing what you want to do. So, as strong women, even though life stopped them from doing things that they want to do, they've always encouraged us because there were more girls than boys, in my generation of growing up. Never stop doing what you want to do. Always strive for whatever it is that you want out of life.
Okay, since we know you attended college, talk about your experience there. Was it all white, all black, male or female? Were you in any student organizations concerned about civil rights?
Excuse me. I attended DeVry Institute of Technology. That was the name of it at that time. Um, it was literally predominantly a black university, well, college. Um, they did encourage each other. Um, it was an uplifting school. Nobody ever downed anyone that I experienced. Everybody always encouraged everyone to strive to be the best. No, I did not join any organizations. I wanted to, but um, because of the financial situation, I couldn't. It's not cheap to join any sorority. And then, as far as any civil rights movements or anything of that nature, I did not. I support them, but I didn't join them. If there was anything that I could do to help anyone, even to this day, I don't mind helping, but I didn't join. I don't even think that there were organizations on campus uh, that supported civil rights acts.
Please describe your field of work. Do you face any challenges as a black woman, or do you feel supported in your field?
hmm. My field of work is administration. I went to college for accounting, but I did not finish, so I do not have a degree. But I have always worked in that field. Once I started working after I got married, um, I went into administration. So I was an administrative assistant and payroll clerk. And then I went to accounts payables and accounts receivables. I've worked in human resources all my life up until the last 3 years. Now I am a legal assistant. Um, to be honest, in my field of work, the only thing that has hindered me from advancement is my background of not having a degree. I honestly don't feel like my color has stopped me from advancement because I have held positions without a degree because of my experience. So I can't honestly say that I felt like my skin color has stopped me from obtaining the position that I wanted.
Okay. So let's talk about your marriage and your children.
Oh.
Has there ever been a clash between your career, education, and family?
Yes.
Explain.
As I said, when we got married, by the time me and your dad got married, between the two of us, we had 3 kids, 3 boys. Um, I did not work, and he didn't want me to work, um, which I was fine with it at first. So for like the first 2 years, I was okay with not working. Well, by the time the fourth child came, I felt like this is not what I wanted out of life. I didn't want to just sit at home and take care of kids and see about a house. That is not what I wanted because my goal in life was to become an accountant and travel the world and help people spend their money. That's what I wanted to do. So I had to learn that what we want out of life is not always what God's plan for us is. So I had to ask your dad about going to work. He really didn't want me to go to work. But I had to assert myself and say, I am tired of this. I can do this. I can go to work and take care of the household. So once we agreed to it, you know, I went to work first as a cook in the kitchen at a nursing home. Um, I didn't mind doing that because of the hours. I would go to work from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., which were good hours. So I was always at home in the evenings with with the kids. I never had a job that took me away from me being at home with the kids in the evening. I've been blessed of that. I've never had to do that. So to me, I know that that's a blessing. So after I worked in the kitchen for about 3 months, um, I was like, I can't do this. This is not for me. So a position came available at another nursing home where your grandmother, my mother-in-law, worked in the office. So I got that position, and I worked there for 10 years. So I went from the office clerk to the payroll clerk to the administrative assistant. So I moved up in those 10 years that I was there. And it wasn't my color that was a barrier, it was my educational background that was the barrier. And I know that is not the case for a lot of people, um, but that's my situation.
And at this time, y'all lived in Alabama.
Yes.
So, have you ever felt discriminated against as it relates to your family?
Yes. Um, I felt discriminated because, mind you, I grew up in Miami. Sorry, but we moved to Five Points, Alabama. So that's where your dad grew up, in Five Points. And I'm not saying he was a troublemaker, but he did get in trouble in his teenage years. And it was once we moved back here, he came back a married man with children, trying to go to work and make a living. And people who knew him prior to him leaving, especially police officers, stayed on him every chance that they got. They would get behind him in the car. If we're riding down the road, they would get behind him and just ride. He had a license. We had insurance. I mean, he was legal, but because of his past, they messed with him per se. They wouldn't let him just live. He wasn't in trouble. They just wouldn't let him live. Um, so yes, that was a discrimination. Um, the children, as they got older, mind you, we have
8.
six six boys and 2 girls. Um, as the boys got older, they started being discriminated against, and we had to stand up for them at one point. Literally, we had to stand up for them. Um, I had to stand up to the police on several occasions for myself, for your dad, and for your brothers. And I'll do it again in a heartbeat.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to your organization involvement. So, have you been a part of any committees or did you hold any leadership roles? And this could be community involvement.
No, community involvement, I have not. I have not held any roles in the community. Um, Working full time and having 8 children did not allow me to be involved in the community as I would like to be. I was involved with church. Um, I was very involved with being an usher and on the board and that sort of thing, working with the children. But as far as being active in the community and making a difference, no. Now, that's one thing I know that I have failed at, and I'm trying to make a difference now.
Can you talk about your church involvement?
Um, as I said, when we moved prior to me moving to Alabama, I was not involved in the church. I was as a young child. I was an usher as a child. I was in the choir as a child in the Baptist church. But as you get older, your parents don't make you go to church like you should, and because they don't go to church like they should. And so I fell off. But once we moved to Alabama and I joined the United Methodist Church, um, they believe in using people in their gifts. So I was an usher. I greeted people as they walked in. Um, I greet people with a smile. I make people feel like they're at home, even if I don't know them. They were always at home when they came to our church. Um, I always greeted the children with a hug and a smile, and I always let them know that I love them. And you just want people to feel loved. So that was my involvement in the church. I cooked when I needed to cook. I cleaned when I needed to clean. I did whatever I needed to do whenever I was asked. So that was that's my church involvement.
Okay, so looking back on your life, what are your greatest achievements?
Mm, to be honest, I don't feel like I've achieved anything personally. I mean, I've done some things in life, but the achievements that I would like to say I would have done, I can't say that. Now, I did achieve the fact that I had a child at 17. I worked a full time job. I graduated high school. I achieved that. I graduated high school with a child. That was an achievement. I didn't drop out. I didn't quit. I could have. I went through a state of depression at one point in time, but I didn't quit. I did go off to college. I did not finish college, but I didn't quit. I didn't let that beat me down. I still strived for whatever it is that is so called better for me in life. I feel like an accomplishment is um, I'm a wife to one husband, and we raised 8 children. We raised 8 children, and they're all still here. They're all on their own. They're all working, and they are all maintaining their households. Now that's an achievement.
What would you say to your 18-year-old self?
18-year-old self. Go to college and finish school. Not just school, but anything that you start, finish it. Whether it be a school assignment, a course, um, a book, even cleaning. Start in a room, finish it. Finish anything that you start.
What would you say to youth and young adult women today?
Respect yourself. Take care of yourself.
Okay. What do you believe are the challenges young adult women face today and should be focused on?
Should be focused. Okay. I think today um, a lot of young women have a lack of respect and a lack of self worth. And I say that only because I see so many young girls fall into the trap of, oh, I got to have a boyfriend and I got to live with him. And um, they want a particular man, or want somebody to take care of them, whether it be a man or the government. And I just don't agree with that. And I'm not saying all girls, I'm just saying the ones that I've experienced. I don't talk to a lot of people, so I can't elaborate on a full society. I can only elaborate on my circle. Um, a man does not define you. Um, if you have a child or children, that does not stop you. It's all in your mind. If you put your mind to something and you put God first, anything can be accomplished.
I think that's a great way to end it. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me. The information you have provided will help us better understand the impact of Black women in American society. Should you have follow should you have any follow-up questions or comments, please do not hesitate to use my contact information on the consent form. Do you have any questions for me?
Will this be published?
No, it will not be published.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Good night.